In 2009, standing in the picturesque town of Lavasa, Ajit Gulabchand had forecast this, that HCC's order book will be 30,000 crores by 2012 and hopefully 1 lakh crores by 2019, that the infrastructure business would expand to assets of between 30 to 50,000 crores by 2014, which is this year. Lavasa would generate revenues of between 4,000 to 6,000 crores per annum by this year and would go public with a valuation higher than that of HCC. But as we know, those plans have all run into environmental trouble, a slowing economy, infrastructure policy paralysis, and a corporate debt restructuring program. After 2 years of losses, HCC seems to have turned a corner in FY14. Is it a case of Achhe Din Aa Gaye? I'm going to put that question to you, Mr. Gulabchand, because you referred to that Narendra Modi campaign slogan in the opening comments in your annual report. HCC ke Achhe Din Aa Gaye?
Well, as I said, as the Prime Minister said, Achhe Din Aane Wali hai.
But you've turned a corner, which is what I'm saying. Aapke Achhe Din Aa Gaye?
But there are still, even though the new government has come and is taking the right steps and things should look better, it will still take them at least a year, year and a half to rectify some of the debris of the economic collapse that happened in the last 2-3 years, particularly last 2-3 years.
I cannot talk of HCC's financial performance in the years to come or its growth path without talking about infrastructure in the country. So can you give us a sense of what you expect this government will do over the course of the next 100 days, 200 days, I mean short term? And of course the long-term plan, I think most of us know what the prescription is for this country.
See, primarily the clear recognition that India needs to build an enormous amount of infrastructure if it is to provide 300 million jobs in the next 20 years. It's a very simple understanding, and I think the government is very clear. The Prime Minister has said so in so many words. They also recognize how big the job is, because America, the largest economy in the world today, employs about 135 million people. So when you talk of 300 million jobs, you're talking about creating an economy that's twice the size of America, and that too in the next 20 years. So it's a very, very challenging task. What is now important is that the precipitous fall in the infrastructure. For example, the visible order books usually at the beginning of the financial year used to be about $110 billion going up when those optimistic projections were made. And suddenly it has collapsed to less than 30 billion, which tells you two things. The drop is sharp and it is also precipitous, as a result of which there's been a lot of companies that have come into trouble. So the first thing that they have to do is pay the backlog they owe to the infrastructure industry at various levels. The figure is around 1,50,000 crores. But let's stay with purely construction. Even in purely construction, the National Highway Authority of India itself owes about 35,000 crores to the
construction
company, as well as the National Hydropower Corporation owes about 10 to 15,000 crores. So what we're talking about, almost 50,000 crores in construction deficit just coming from two agencies alone.
Of that 30,000 crores you pointed out as NHAI's dues and 15,000 crores on account of hydropower dues, how much is owed to HCC and how much could likely get paid back in the course of at least FY15?
See, first of all, HCC, for example, is owed about 2,500 crores by NHAI and 2,200 crores by the NHPC.
So there you're roughly 4,700 to 5,000 crores.
This is one, but there are others in Andhra, in Maharashtra, all this great ceiling.
How much of this can you expect if this government does pick up speed on infrastructure, on paying some of these dues back? Do you have a realistic timeline on how much you can expect?
What we are urging this government is, at least those projects where the arbitration awards are in place, will you please make the payment, even if you feel that you want to challenge it. Challenging it is usually only on malafide, but for some public interest reason, they always come up with some reason, and it usually gets thrown out at a later stage.
So 1,500 crores is what you won in terms of arbitration awards.
And we will win. We will win.
So that money should come to you this fiscal?
Quickly. No, I would like it to come.
You would like it to come.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, the point is that we would urge this government that they must find, even for the other ones, that is why I was explaining the process. What happens here is, when there is the delay, a cost is immediately precipitates. The project site is sitting idle, lots of things are happening, all that cost has to be paid for. And that is paid for by the contractor as well as by the bankers from whom you borrow the money.
I get that.
And don't forget, construction profits are about 3 to 4% of the turnover. A very great contract, 6 to 7, but that's it. Whereas these cost overruns are 10 to 50% overall. So they are funded by bankers, which is ordinary people's money. And the cost has been incurred. That's why, if you ask me, where are these claims sitting? About 2,500 crores is sitting in the work in progress. The total of 3,500 crores is sitting in our cost to completion. The rest were not even taken in our books, but the cost has been incurred.
Okay. You spoke of immediate steps that this government needs to take, one of which is to pay back money.
Yeah.
What are some of the other steps that could start boosting your order book this financial year itself? Because you've had an order book that is sort of, on a consolidated basis, been around the region of 14,000 crores for a couple of years now. You've spoken of some projects that are in bid stage in your annual report. Give us a sense of the growth in your order book you can anticipate based on the first steps that this government might take.
See, first important thing is that this year, as I said, the government itself will require time to clear up things.
Sure.
So when they clear up things, then the process begins. For example, any held up projects that are there halfway because of environmental land, they can be very low hanging fruit, quickly clear, and they'll come onto the construction map right away. But even then, it would take them at least 6 to 8 months. So real progress on the actions they will take this year will be only noticed directly by the construction industry only in the FY 15-16.
Okay, fine.
This year will continue to be rough for all of us, in the sense that, but with only one difference. What was hopeless at one time will now become in the realm of possibilities. So
you have an order book currently at about 14,000 crore rupees on a consolidated basis. You expect that FY15 will throw up a similar number. It's only in FY16 that you might in fact see some addition to that order book of
during
noticeable
this year,
amount.
as I said, you see, all adversity sometimes creates some good things. We have been able to cut down our costs. We have been able to be more focused on how to get jobs. We had a very long, dry run in not getting jobs. But however, now, even in this first quarter, we have received jobs orders worth about 500-600 crores. So what I see is that we expect that this year to be also an improved year over the last year.
But you know, your fourth quarter margins for FY14 were very good. They were up 6%, you know, on a comparable basis. Much of this has come from lower costs, you know, and some of the fear is, has it also come from lower execution in that fourth quarter? So have you done less work because of which your margins are better? Give us a sense of how you expect to sustain these margins or maybe even improve them if there is scope through the course of this new financial year.
See, having taken a decision and taken a decision during the gloomy days where we feel that things will not happen, we don't know when will happen, you don't know what. We decided that even at steady low turnovers, we should be able to turn around a profit and manage our own cash flow without additional borrowings. This is the decision we took and this is the targets we set. As a result of that, we are prepared for slightly low turnover growth for the next year or two, and to be yet able to manage. We have a interest burden of almost net interest burden of 550 crores, after which we have made this profit. But this is the kind of discipline we have set ourselves to. We are prepared for another rough year. However, if some of these changes happen in the ministry, then what would happen is we would be able to also monetize our assets a little faster. If we can pay back some of the loan that we have taken, which has come under CDR, corporate group debt, corporate debt restructuring. If we can pay back, our attempt is to try and pay back 1,500 to 2,000 crores and get out of CDR.
This year or
this year.
over
the next 2 years? Or
over the next 2 years?
2-3 years.
Okay.
So by monetizing some of our assets in the infrastructure field, some of our projects, which will yield net some we're being conservative about it. 500 to 700 crores is what we would get from that to pay back. Some of the loans that we get, we will pay back. Some of the claims that we will get. Yeah. So this is our plan. And then, of course, our objective is to try and reduce the debt burden on one side, increase our turnover on the other side. We don't expect for another year or two the dreamlike situation that existed in 2004, 5, 6 will come back for another 2 years.
Okay. Just a couple of quick questions. Your margins in the fourth quarter, EBITDA margin, was at 15%. Okay. I don't know if that's sustainable over all of FY15. You know, your FY14 full year margin was about 15.7%. It came in from below 10%. So I'm just curious, are you likely to be able to sustain this?
See, please understand one thing. When we look at margins in our type of business, you cannot go quarter by quarter. It has not much value. The reason is, in a certain quarter, a certain claim might come, another quarter. So these things happen. After all, these are 3
Your full year margin is 15.7%.
This year. Yeah. However, what I would say is we have said consistently that we would maintain a EBITDA margin between 10 and 12%. So sometimes it will go higher, sometimes it will.
But 15.7% is substantially higher than 12%.
Yeah, but that is occasionally would happen.
So will you be able to maintain that outperformance through this year, or you maintain 10 to 12% for
We will normally maintain 10 to 12% and yet have a margin. But 15% is something that can happen also, given some of the large amount of claims that are coming in.